When we first opened, we invested a number of dollars in marketing and putting ourselves in different magazines, local things. I would say we probably got less than 1% of our business from that. 99.9% of my business comes from word of mouth. So in this business, creating those relationships with people so that people trust you will get you the majority of your business. And everyone I've been around, I've had business people in my family knew how to work, knew how to make money, but they knew how to save it. They didn't know how to take it and make more money. And if I would say anything is that we need to teach our children just everything that goes along with money and the money world. Our kids need to know what these terms mean so that they can, not just work. So everybody's not going to open a business. This life isn't for everybody. Some people want to work for it, that's fine. But still, at the end of the day, the money you make, you need to know what to do with it.
All right. Good morning, Savannah, and welcome to the Savannah Business Showcase. I'm Taraz, your host, and we're here this morning with Dr. Adam Harris, co-owner of the Eastern Wellness Center here in Richmond Hill. He's been in practice for about 20 years, right?
Yes.
Practice for about 20 years. Specializes in family psychotherapy, psychiatric evaluation, and psychophysiology therapy. That's what I found online. Is all that right?
That sounds about right. Yeah. Put all those words together. That sounds about right.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a general practice psychiatrist.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I do adult psychiatry primarily. I don't see children, anything 18 and above, and anything. I do see some geriatric if it's not complicated.
Okay.
But primarily, I'm what's called a general psychiatrist.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get into your background in a second. The way I usually like to start it.
Okay.
I start with a little scenario. So here's a scenario.
All right.
You're walking in your neighborhood. A little kid comes up to you and says, Dr. Harris, Adam, you're my hero. I want to be like you when I grow up.
Right on.
So in the language that a 10 or 12-year-old can understand, what does it take to be Dr. Adam Harris?
Okay, that's pretty straightforward, yeah. Well, just to be a doctor in general, first is to understand that I'm a medical doctor. So to do what I do, you have to go to medical school. So that's the first thing. To be a psychiatrist, which is different from a psychologist. Psychologist is someone who goes to college and then goes on to graduate school and gets a doctorate in psychology. Actually, my undergraduate degree isn't even in psychology. My undergraduate degree is in microbiology. So to be a psychiatrist, basically, what you would do is go to college and then usually major in some form of science, even though you don't have to now. Then get into medical school, finish medical school, which is 4 years. And then after medical school, in your final year in medical school or somewhere thereabout, you decide what kind of doctor you want to be. Okay. Whether it's an internist, which what most people know as a general practitioner, or a pediatrician, or a dermatologist, or whatever the number of specialties in medicine. Medicine is primarily specialized. We don't usually have one doctor that does everything anymore.
Right.
And then after that, when you finish medical school, you go to residency. And for each type of physician, there are a different number of years. So, for example, psychiatry is 4 years of residency after medical school. In residency, that's where you're an actual physician. You're an MD now, but you're practicing primarily psychiatry. The first year you do a mixture of general medicine and usually some neurology. But the first year for most residencies is considered the intern year.
Okay.
And they're very similar. Programs differ, but for the most part, you'll do mostly medicine. And then after that, you get into your specialty. And so for then 3 more years, you work on learning how to practice psychiatry. And then when you finish, you graduate from residency, then you're a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is. 12 years after high school.
12 years.
Just about. 12 years, give or take a year here for undergraduate, but 12 years after high school, and then you're a psychiatrist.
Yeah. My wife's a pharmacist.
Okay.
So we went through the same process.
Okay.
Just I don't know if it was 8 years or 12 years. It might have just been 8 for her after high school. But it was tough.
Oh yeah, pharmacy school is really tough.
Yeah.
Pharmacy school, all professional schools are tough in there, and you have to have a certain personality. Going to medical school or law school, or the thing about medical school is you don't write papers for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
You don't write thesis and that sort of thing. It's all exam based.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that works out because I don't particularly care to write too much.
Mm-hmm.
I like reading, but I don't like writing all too much. But if you like to write a lot, now you might make a good lawyer.
Yeah.
But if you don't and you do well on standardized tests, medical school is pretty the way that you could try to go.
Mm. So what's different about you though? I mean, because anybody can follow those steps, but like, what's different? Well, do you think you have something different? Because this, like, I'll say this: when I first saw you, when we first shook hands, you're not what I expected to see.
No.
I expected to see a man in a lab coat come out,
Right.
Right. with the clipboard.
Right.
But that's not you.
No, not at all. You probably didn't expect the tattoos either.
No, I didn't expect the tats. Yeah, nah.
No, I really, the look and the image really goes back to residency for the most part, because what I realized in residency was one of the things you want to do early on, especially in psychiatry, is you want to make people feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something about, we even call it white coat syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to the doctor and your blood pressure is elevated because you're at the doctor's office. There's something about that clinical look that on the one hand can be somewhat frightening, and depending on where you are in the medical cycle, it can actually be comforting as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I found particularly in psychiatry, when I would round and when I would go to the emergency room to see patients when I was a resident, I found that the patients were more comfortable when they saw the social worker. And so I looked at the social worker and I realized the social worker usually had some khaki pants on, if it was a male, some khaki pants, right, and a polo shirt, really casually dressed, and then their name tag. And so I said, well, I like to dress like that. I'm a real casual person.
Right.
And I said, if I ever get a chance to practice on my own outside of working for someone else, within reason, I'm going to dress like I want to dress. And so I found when I first opened this practice and dressing like that, looking real casual, what I get from most people is, you don't look like I thought you would look. And second of all, you're a regular person. And we tend to underestimate how important that is in medicine.
Yeah.
Because physicians can be intimidating. It's a whole world. And of course, you're dealing with someone's health. And this whole world with jargon and nomenclature that people don't really know about. And so you hear people...
And misuse.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Exactly. So from the look on, it's some of it's intentional. Some of it's because I work for myself, so I can do that. But no, this goes back to then when I realized that the more I look like people that people could relate to, the quicker and easier it was to build rapport.
Yeah.
And the more open they would be with me.
Yeah.
So I just kept that going. And it worked out in psychiatry.
Yeah.
But if I was a general practitioner, I would probably look the same. Unless you're a surgeon or something, they're always in scrubs for the most part because they're in a clinical setting all the
sterile,
time.
for the most part.
Yeah, but you'll find most mental health professionals tend to be a little more relaxed because, population you're dealing with, that's the most important thing, is building that rapport from the beginning. If you don't build a rapport with people, then they're not going to tell you what you need to know to help them.
Right.
Yeah.
And they might not even come back.
Oh yeah. And then I'll be honest with you, some of them haven't come back because of the way I look. I've had some people, I've had a few, not too many, but I've had a few that hit the door and see me and go, no, he's just not even close to what I think a doctor's supposed to look like. And I accept that.
Right. Yeah.
I accept that because it's not about me, it's about them. You need to be comfortable seeing someone. Now, I've had a lot of people that have had trepidation before they walked in and have said so at the end, I really didn't know what I was dealing with until I started talking to you. And then I realized, well, yeah, you are a doctor. Yeah, I am. I don't look like your average doctor. And my wife would get upset about it, especially when I first started practicing, because we've been out in businesses and places, and I've had people say to me, well, you don't, especially if my credit card has MD on it. And when I first would we'd be out and I'd try to pay for something, I'd have somebody say, well, you don't look like a doctor.
Right.
And she'd be ready to jump. Well, what does it? I said, wait a minute, wait. I know what they mean. And in fact, it's a compliment to them. That's what I'm shooting for.
Yeah.
You're right. I don't look like a doctor.
Right.
Maybe it will, whether, we live by stereotypes because we try to do things and what the history that we gain helps us predict the future. And when we can predict the future, we have some peace in our minds. So we're always trying to predict what's going to happen. So we see people and we're trying to predict. We try to put them in a category because that brings peace. Now, we say stereotypes, by and large, that word's bad, but we all live by them to some degree.
Yeah.
And so I understand it, so I don't get frustrated by it.
Yeah. And I don't know if you're doing it intentionally, but like part of it is like really brilliant because there's a concept called like 1,000 true fans, and it's like you're not looking for everybody to be your fan. You want 1,000 true fans that are going to spend lots of money with you.
That's right.
And that's what you're getting. When you dress, in the way you want to dress and you look your authentic self. Right. You're getting those people who want to come back to you over and over again. And you're keeping the haters away, basically. Absolutely. And the people, like you say, that want to, that are going to be flexible enough to deal with that. Because sometimes when it comes to dealing with patients, you have to realize that not only are you not for everyone, but everyone isn't for you. And to know that and know yourself. Now, the older I get, the rarer that is, because you become somewhat of a chameleon the older you get. The wiser you get. People that I would have seen years ago and would have said, I'm probably not the best fit for you. Rarely do I say that anymore. But that comes from knowledge as well. Right. The older I get, the more I learn and the more I know, and the less I'm intimidated by different things because, over time you start to see the same things over and over and over. Once again, you categorize people so that you can become comfortable with it. Right. But yeah, I like patients to know that, so they know whenever they come and see me dressed up, they'll go, "Are you going somewhere? Is there a fair coming up?" I'm like, usually I'm going to one of my kids' affairs. It's like my wife will say, "Put the jacket and tie on, please." I'm like, "Yeah, not a problem. I like to." Right. But I think too, coming from the in residency, you kind of have to do that. Right. Even though I was able in residency, I have to admit the residency I went to wasn't very. It was a very good residency. Had a diverse population. I used to tell people I had like the UN of residencies. Okay. I mean, we had everything from an Egyptian resident to a couple of African American residents to Korean residents. I mean, we were really, every class was very diverse. But the beauty of that was these different cultures brought their different viewpoint to the treatment model and to the philosophy. And so learning from them as well. So you not only learn from your patients and you learn from the people that are there to train you, but you also learn from your peers. And so that was a really good thing. But even starting in residency, it was very, psychiatry is a little more relaxed than some of the other fields, because like I said, the point is that you have to create an intimate relationship with people. Intimate without, of course, most people think intimacy, they're thinking physical intimacy. There's no physical intimacy, absolutely, but there's definitely intellectual intimacy that you have to develop. Right. You want somebody I sometimes sit over there, and I'm talking about where my couch is, and it's a love seat, really. It's not a couch, because nobody lays on it. But once in a while, I'll sit over there just to see what it feels like to sit there and look over at myself. And I've learned a number of things. Number one, I learned that couch needs to be a little high. It needs to sit up a little higher off the ground. So I'll lower my chair down because I realize people are looking up at me. Gotcha. But it's all the little things to do because I don't have machines. I don't have equipment. To be a psychiatrist requires a pen, a piece of paper, and the ability to speak and listen. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. Yeah. It's the one field of medicine where there is truly still a lot of art involved in the practice of it. So, and every day is different. So, So you mentioned earlier you own your own business. You work for yourself, which is cool, and that's why I came here. I remember quick story. So I remember the first time I realized that like medicine, like medical practice, was actually a business. I chipped my tooth in college, my front tooth.
Okay.
I had to go to the dentist. He was like, "Don't worry, I'll give you a good deal on this tooth." I was thinking to myself, like, a good deal? Like, where am I at?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, I will pay you anything right now. I'm a college student. You know, I'm trying to get this girl. Like, you know, I'll pay you anything for this tooth. But yeah, so that was the first time I realized it was a business. So like, how like, what are some of the difficulties of like owning a medical practice?
Oh, the biggest one I would say
On a business level
today would be reimbursement from in this area, reimbursement from the various insurance companies.
Okay.
And when it comes in and the changes in it, you know, that's, you know, for example, with any business, if you have a product, let's say that you're selling, or even a service,
Right.
you usually set the price of that product or that service based upon, you know, how much money you put out for it and how much it costs to make, or etc. In this business, we have a middleman, and you can go the route of setting your own prices based upon what's reasonable and customary for this area, and then people paying you straight out of their pocket. But in this community in particular, you'll find that if you don't accept insurance, if you don't accept people's insurance, because most of them have some form of insurance, they'll seek someone else. So when I first opened, the idea was to reasonable prices for different things, therapy, medications, because I only have really a couple of different things I do. I do initial evaluations, then med checks, and then individual therapy. I do some other therapy, but that's the majority of my work, so it's not too many codes. But I found that, you know, people come in, the first thing they call you and they ask you, are you on the insurance? Do you take the insurance? And if you say no, I sat there for the first 3 or 4 months with no patients.
Wow.
So the idea, and this is a community that had no psychiatrist, it had a number of therapists in it, but no psychiatrist. I'm still the only one here. And so I thought if I build it, they'll come.
Yeah.
No. If you don't take the insurance, they won't come.
come.
So that's the biggest difficulty I would say in owning your own practice is that, and that you have to be there to work to do it. It's not something you can, which is, for me, is fine. I enjoy working. I enjoy seeing people. Like I tell folks, I don't break rocks for a living, which is a blessing. I talk to folks for a living, but you have to be here to do it. To make money, if you're not sitting here doing it, you're not generating anything.
Right, yeah. Can't really do it passively.
Right. You could get people that work for you, and you could, I've had therapists before, but that can be hit or miss. I've had some very good therapists to work with me, which I was blessed to do. It's just that one moved and the other one retired. She was already semi-retired.
Gotcha.
And she retired, and but they were both wonderful therapists. But you also have to have a philosophy that you share with the people that are working with you, and these are other professionals as well that have an education. You know, they're professionals. They've got licenses and ethics and standards they go by, and so you have to have the same. We all have the same professional ethics, but treatment-wise, everyone doesn't think the same. And in this business, you really have to get along with the people that you work with as well, because if you don't, it can make your life miserable.
Yeah.
So, and just randomly keep somebody else working with you. You get to a certain place in life for you to say, you know, I'd rather just do it myself. Yeah. But that's the biggest thing would be insurance, I'd say.
Got you. So I'm black. You're black. So like, I've thought about this question for quite a bit. But like, why is there such a big stigma of psychiatry or psychiatric care in the black community?
Wow, there is. Yeah, there is. There's no question about that.
A negative stigma.
Yes, and I would say that's played out within. I could just see that in the number and the types of patients I have. The majority of my patient base is, I'd probably say at least 85% black. I mean white. And it's not just this community, because I pull patients out of this from Hinesville to Rincon to Savannah. I put patients from all over. Why don't we seek mental health care as quickly? And that's a good question as to why. We know it exists. We know it is. Now there are still the stereotypes about mental illness itself, and the subjective nature of it. But I think with us in particular, there's also how can I put it? It's not a problem. Well, it becomes a problem when you don't seek care. But the idea that it's not real, that mental illness is not a real thing. Sometimes with us, it can get into it's physical or spiritual. And now that's not always the case, but for a lot of people, I've found the idea of having a psychiatric or psychological illness is contrary to their belief system and dealing with the spirit and the soul. Now, physical illness, but once again, looking at that as well, is there a stigma to getting care for physical illnesses as well in our community? I'd say so to some degree. Yeah. Maybe not as much a stigma with physical as there are barriers to care. Economic barriers and intellectual barriers in some cases, just not knowing. But when it comes to us in mental health, we tend to be a little more conservative about seeking care. Because the idea that someone will deem you as crazy if you're depressed. Well, you're depressed is just you're sad. No, sadness is one thing. We've all been sad. We all will be sad. Right. Depression is itself an illness. And I find when I've talked in particular to churches about this, when you educate people about it and the difference between the two, and if you are a person of faith yourself, and can reach them on that level, so you can talk about both and how they interact and how they're not mutually exclusive, then you can start to open eyes to some people. But you're still dealing with community. You're still dealing with the idea that if you go see someone to talk to them about your problems, that you're crazy. And then, quite frankly, there are some things that we unfortunately, and this is, well, I can't say it's the older generation, it crosses it's intergenerational. The idea isn't a black thing. Mental illness is a white thing. You hear that sometimes, unfortunately. And I mean, well, that's a white thing. Oh, he was crazy. That must have been a white guy. Yeah. We don't go crazy. Well, the bottom line is
it's not true.
Not even close. Yeah. Not even close. And in fact, I think a lot of what we see in not just and unfortunately we get in the inner city as being black. But I tend to look more at impoverished communities because blacks, we're not a monolithic society. We're multi-level. We live in various neighborhoods. Not all of us come out of the projects. Not all of us come off the farm. Some of us, we all come from different places. And so we know that as black people because we know more black people. Right. There's other people knowing that about us. Unfortunately, what you see in the media often is just, and that's not just for black people, but it's for all ethnicities, is the news shows the worst of us, unfortunately. And so we are the worst of us. Across the board, those of us who don't have. Yeah, that's not a black-white thing. That's a socioeconomic thing.
Yeah, wealth thing.
Yes, and so there are barriers to care there when it comes to financial barriers, spending money on going to see someone about being sad when that's not a real thing.
Yeah, or you don't have enough food to eat. You know what I'm saying? Which choice are you going to make?
Right. Those are real issues that we tend to overlook, and that's not a black-white thing. Once again, that's a human thing. There are plenty of poor white people that don't seek out care either because they can't afford it, or they have to make that determination whether they're going to spend money on this medication that might help them with their mood, or they're going to spend money on food. Right? So, but these are these are complex things that we make more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we tend to make all of these things more complicated because of lacking empathy, of trying really hard instead of just saying, this is what I believe. Well, that's fine. And what you believe doesn't have to change, but your perception may change if you look at it through somebody else's eyes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, so, you know, we all need to do a better job at that.
Yeah.
Across the board.
Definitely. So you talked about the spiritual side. You talked about, you know, having faith. And so you named the Eastern Wellness Center.
Mm-hmm.
So how does the Eastern come into play?
Well, initially,
and I also saw like a dragon tattoo. Is that right?
Well, that's actually a tiger wrestling a snake, and
okay.
Then I got 2 koi fish. The dragon will come after my kids get grown and get paid for my next tattoo. When they get grown, then the 2 koi will turn into 2 dragons on back that they're gonna pay for. But no, Eastern Wellness started because when I was a resident and we lived in North Carolina, we started a business, but we really didn't develop it where we were going to do kind of like a locum tenens for residents, where we're going to take residents who had their full license and wanted to work and make some extra money moonlighting. Mm-hmm. And we were going to get them to do evaluations for disability.
Okay.
And so we started that when we named it Eastern Evaluations. Well, when we moved here and we opened this, we started thinking about something. They all use Georgia Psychiatric, and then we just wanted to stand out. Mm-hmm. So we kept the Eastern, and we went with the wellness. And we went with the wellness because the idea was not to, once again, the stigma of it. Mm-hmm. Location. You know, we're in I guess this would be considered a strip mall, mm-hmm. right? At the time we first opened, there was a supermarket here and a Blockbuster. And so this was kind of a hub of commerce for this community.
Well, it's a good sign you outlived Blockbuster.
Yes, we outlived Blockbuster and Harvey's and Food Lion and a number of others. But when we were thinking about, naming it something, we said, well, we need to come up with something that focuses on, that really expresses how we feel about mental health and its wellness. Mm-hmm. And our initial motto was, which still is, your mind matters. Mm-hmm. And because the idea, once again, like we were talking about people not seeking mental health care, the idea that, if the mind goes, doesn't matter how healthy you are physically. Mm-hmm. So we went that route, and we went with Eastern Wellness, for one, to kind of, to tie up our old belief system about mental health and tying it into physical health. The other reason was because Eastern Wellness, just seeing it on the door, you don't know what kind of practice it is.
Right.
And that was done on purpose because, like I said, this was a hub of this community. Mm. And it would be nothing to see your neighbor coming in and out of doors on the strip mall. Mm-hmm. So if someone saw you coming in and out of my door, they would have no idea what kind of doctor you saw. Mm-hmm. And that's the reason why the door doesn't say psychiatrist.
Gotcha.
And funny story, when I first opened, and I was here by myself, I was sitting at the front because it was just me working. Mm-hmm. My mom was actually my first employee. Okay. And she didn't get paid, but I fed her. So she's a great employee. But anyway, when I first opened, I was sitting at the front. Man, I had no patience. I was just sitting there. And this lady walks in, and she comes right up to the window, and she starts telling me that she's been in a car accident, she's got this pain, and she's going on and on about this, that. And for like 10 minutes, she just talked straight. Mm-hmm. I didn't say a word. I just listened to her. Yeah. And so when she came up for air, I said, ma'am, I hope you know I'm a psychiatrist. Yeah. And for reasons of your radio show, I won't go into the exact words she used, but that woman literally said, I don't need a psychiatrist. Yeah. Nothing wrong with me. I ain't crazy. And spun around and literally ran out of here. She actually thought I was a chiropractor. So she saw the Eastern Wellness and thought some sort of Eastern. And so she thought I was a chiropractor. Gotcha. So she thought, I would be able to align her spine or something. Yeah. But that goes to, okay, so our purpose was being met. Yeah. And the goal that we set for, that's why I don't have a sign out front. There's just a lot of people will have trouble finding that once they get in, they know how to get here.
Mm-hmm.
But they're all that's done for a reason.
Gotcha.
Because we want to make certain that we maintain as much confidentiality as we can.
Okay.
And, people see you coming in and out of here, 9 out of 10 times, they won't know that you came to see a psychiatrist.
Yep.
And so that's for our patient's comfort. So even when I put my name on it, if I put another therapist on it, I don't put their credentials. I put it's just my MD, but I don't put psychiatrist.
Gotcha.
And like when I have a therapist, I put LCSW or MSW. You'd have to know what that meant to know, okay, that's a therapist. Most people don't know. They don't know what LCSW is or MSW or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't, yeah.
Right. So you see that, you think, well, I wonder what kind of, maybe that's a speech therapist or maybe that's, but you wouldn't automatically know that, know unless you come in.
So you don't have any so I guess what I was wondering also, I see how it's done strategically, but like the Eastern part of it, you don't have any kind of connection to
Eastern
Eastern
philosophy? No.
Eastern philosophy. No,
No,
okay.
that's because we lived in Eastern North Carolina.
Okay.
So yeah, the first one was actually called Eastern Carolina Evaluation, something like to that effect.
Okay.
And we just kept the Eastern part because we were, in Southeast Georgia.
Gotcha.
So we just kept that
Makes
part
sense.
from there.
So when I was coming in, I saw a lot of jazz photos up there. Are you
Yes.
into music as well?
I play a mean air drums.
Okay.
I'm the man on some air drums, boy. I'm akin to a Max Roach or my favorite being yeah, I'm a big air drum.
Nothing wrong with that, man. I like that.
Yeah, I can work them
I
out.
can tell you're really good at it.
Yeah, I'm really good. You saw me practicing when you came in. But no, I'm a big jazz fan.
Okay.
Primarily hard bop, that
Okay.
era, that 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
And that's why all the jazz posters are
Okay.
out there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. Yeah, we have two things. I used to play. So I played sax, played in a little jazz band in high school,
Okay.
and then I played tuba in college. That's how I met my wife.
Right on.
But also, we also have a show on the station, man. You might like. It's a guy. He does a jazz show.
Okay.
And once a week, he goes really in depth into the history of each song and tells you the songs, and he does a different jazz genre.
Okay.
Everything. But I'll get you. I think it's called Beyond the Liner Notes, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway.
And he really
I'll
gets
share
into
with
the
you.
music.
He really gets into It's a great show.
I like shows like that because Wynton Marsalis, I don't know if he still does, but he had a show on satellite radio called The Swing Seat.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I love listening to that show because he, having someone that plays and is an artist at that level that not only plays but understands that music at that level. We think jazz is like chess. It's a thinking man's music, but the reality is jazz is everybody's music.
Yeah.
But to have someone who understands the intricacies of it and can tell you why this is different from this. It's nice when you're listening to it. Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with the lightning round. We kind of went all over the place.
Okay.
but real quick for the people listening right now, this is Dr. Adam Harris, co-owner with his wife of the Eastern Wellness Center here in Richmond Hill. How can people contact you if they need to or find you?
Oh, yeah, our number is 912-756-4117. You can call that number, and if you have any questions about your insurance or whether we're on the pound, you can call us directly. We can usually tell you.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll be right back in just a second. Don't go anywhere. We're going to go through the lightning round. All right. Thank you guys for listening. See you in a second. All right, Savannah, we're back. Welcome back to the Savannah Business Showcase. This is Taraz, your host, and I'm here once again. If you missed it, you just joined us with Dr. Adam Harris of the Eastern Wellness Center here in Richmond Hill, and we're going to put him through the lightning round.
The lightning round.
Yes, sir. Are you ready?
I am. Yes, sir. As ready as I'm going to be.
What did you want to be as a kid, and how does that relate to your current business?
As a kid, I wanted to be a chemist.
Okay.
And it doesn't relate at all other than the science aspect. But I got to high school and realized I didn't like high school chemistry, and actually was a chemistry minor in college and really realized that it wasn't for me. But, I learned how to think. I have to give my chemistry professor at college, RFX Williams, for teaching me how to really think. So thanks to him. But, I want to be a chemist.
How have you approached failure in life?
Like my father, who probably but no, without a doubt, was my mentor. Both my mother and father, but my father when it came to life lessons. And it's he used to always say nothing beats tried but a failure. So you do it, and if you fail, you learn from it. You get up and you do it again, and you keep doing it because you got to keep on living. Yeah, and cross every bridge when you get to it. Don't try to cross it beforehand.
What did you do before this?
Nothing.
Okay.
No, I went to school before I became a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Truthfully.
Well, you said you were in the military, right?
Yes, but I did this in the military.
Okay.
Yeah. In the Army, I was I was a psychiatrist when I came to the Army. Well, I got commissioned in college, and then after college, I got an educational delay to go to medical school.
Okay.
And then I got a deferment to complete a civilian residency because the Army was always short. It's always been short of psychiatrists. And so this was my first duty station, was at Fort Stewart.
Okay.
And I was the chief of division mental health here. I was responsible for the mental health of the entire 3rd Infantry Division, which was quite a job for a captain, but it was a great job. I loved it. But that's what I did. The same thing I do now, for the most part, I did in the military.
Okay. Who influenced you early in life, and who's your mentor now?
Who influenced me? A number of people influenced me early in life. Most of my aunts and uncles, I would have to say. But that was I have a huge extended family. I say not all relatives are family. Not all family are relatives.
That's true. Majority
of my family are not blood related to me, except for the 8 siblings my mother had. But my father, my mother, I had 2 wonderful parents that pretty much the majority of my influence came out of the home. It was my father was a police officer in New York. My mother was a nurse, and I like to say my mother did know more knew more pharmacology, not psychopharmacology. But I'd have to say my mother was an RN for 50 years, and so kind of my model of what a medical professional would be. Yeah. But just work ethic, someone who worked every day and didn't complain, and no matter what the weather was like, no matter how he felt, my father. My father was he was a giant of a man. And so I thank God that I had him in my life, because I give him and my mother, no question. But when you become a man, you start looking at life through a man's eyes. Right. And to have a man that I could relate to and felt comfortable with. My father's motto was, I'm your best friend, but I'm not your playmate. And so when I hear people say about their kids, well, I'm not your friend, I try to say, yeah, you are. Yeah. You're not their playmate, so there's respect there. I was respecting him. There's no question about that. Yeah. He had the last open mouth, there's no question. But he taught me how to think, and I was around grown-ups a lot growing up, so all that helped.
Okay. Yeah, I can tell. We actually met through your aunt, or was it aunt-in-law?
Right. Yeah, she's my aunt. Yes.
Yeah. So shout out to Aunt Eleanor.
Aunt Eleanor, that's right. She's actually my cousin.
Okay.
But she's an aunt because she's at that level. She's a little older than I am, but she's at that level of maturity that most of us in our community would
consider
call
her aunt anyway.
And yes, wonderful person. And that's on my father's side.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, she's wonderful. I fell in love with her the first time I met her. Yeah, that's right.
She's a nurse. She's a nurse. I learned a lot. But tell you across the board, just an aside, nurses. Man, I tell you, my hat goes off to nurses because I grew up in the age of old school nurses, and I learned a lot from them. And thank God my mother was a nurse, because it made my life as a resident a lot easier, because she taught me how to deal with nurses. Therefore, nurses were able to help me. So you learn real quick as a resident that you're not the smartest one in the room. Right. And even though you're the MD, you're probably not the smartest one in the room still. Yeah. So yeah. But across the board, nurses are great.
I'm gonna have to have you tell my wife that. She's having some problems with some of the nurses right now.
Oh yeah, nurses, man. If there's a way, if you can get with the nurses, if you can get them right, you can get a good relationship with those nurses, man. Especially in a position. Oh, life will be a lot.
Advice for new entrepreneurs and business owners.
Research. research. If you have an idea about something, research it. There's no reason today with the amount of information that's out here that we have at our fingertips, because there are going to be a lot of mistakes you're going to make, even though you try to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. But I would say what I did was the opposite. I said, if I build it, they'll come. And I know how to practice medicine. There's one thing I'm confident in. I knew then how to practice medicine, so I'll know how to do this. No. Running a business and practicing medicine are two totally different things.
Right.
And so my wife, thank the Lord, has really, that's why she's a co-owner, not, she's really the boss. She pays me. She's feeding me today, I hope. But she had to learn, because she wasn't a business major. Neither one of us were business majors in college, but she had to kind of on-the-job train and learn all these years, and we're still learning.
Yeah.
We're still learning how to do this thing. But what seems simple can be very complicated, and what seems very complicated can be very simple. So what I would say is learn as much as you can about whatever business industry you're interested in. Not only the upside. We look at the upside, the money. How much money am I going to make?
Right.
And as most physicians you'll find are not the best money managers, because when you asked me the question earlier about medicine and only your own practice and business, it's really managing money, because physicians across the board, we spend so much time focused on taking care of people that now doctors are starting to realize that you got to keep your eye on that bottom line.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of other people.
That's true.
But there's this thing in us, like I said, in most people, to want to help folks. If you got into medicine just to make money, and if you get into psychiatry just to make money, I got news for you. There's money here, but if you get into shit just for that, you're not going to be, I don't think you're going to be as fulfilling to others. Gotcha. It may be fulfilling you if that's all you care about is money. I didn't get into this for money. I got into it because this is where the good Lord told me I was supposed to be. So, but yeah, research, and get yourself a mentor. Mentor. A lot of times we pride, I think, keeps us from just reaching out. If I had to do it all over again, I would have found another psychiatrist who I could have said, "Hey, show me how to do this thing. I'm not a practice medicine. Now show me how to run a practice."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me a story about a failure.
Wow. Oh, man, there's a bunch of those. In business or just in life? Just business? Business. Oh, well, yeah. I would say initially when we first opened, not being aware of the fact that without being on all of the insurance panels, we weren't going to get any business. And so for the first, like I say, 6 months, this business wasn't generating any profit, to the point where I actually had to go out and get a job. And I actually got a job working for Gateway through a locum tenens organization. Okay. Rent-a-doc, so to speak. And I worked for them. And even after the practice started generating income, we got on all the insurance panels, I still stayed with them for a number of years. But if I would say anything in failing in business, that would be about it. It's just in the beginning. Yeah. Not being able to pay my bills through the business, not making any money because I hadn't done the proper research. Like I said, if I had to do it all over again, I would have put some money aside, but we thought I put all my savings in. Plus, I didn't want to borrow any money. We have this idea I don't want to borrow. If I had to do it all over again, I probably would have borrowed a little bit of money instead of putting my entire our savings and everything into it, because it made for some hard times there from the beginning. I bet. So. And that goes back to just having a mentor. If I had somebody that I could have went to and said, should I do this? Should I put but to me it just made sense, because debt is like a dirty word in that community, right? And
should be in everybody's community, right. But you're right.
Yeah. Debt's like nobody. You shouldn't want to be in debt, right? So I didn't want to be in debt, but I look back on it. There were some things that I could have done that would have made managing the business easier had I borrowed some money and still had some money, So is that the advice you would give to a new entrepreneur that's in your shoes? Yeah, I would say don't sink everything you have into it. If you can get some help with funding and maintain unless you've been in that business for a number of years and it's like a family business or something that you already know, and you know, okay, this is a sure bet. We're just expanding it.
Yeah. But
to start a new business and sink your entire everything you've got for the most part, thinking you're going to get a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
And I was told that, no, don't do that. But I said, if I build it, they'll
come.
come. Everybody around me told me that. The other doctors in this community said, hey, we need a psychiatrist. When I first opened, and then I didn't get any patients for a while, you realize, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's not that easy.
What's the one thing in your business that excites you? And what's the one thing that drains you of energy?
Seeing patients, both.
Okay.
And it's what excites me. It's what gets me up in the morning, helping people. Have an opportunity to not just help people, but I learn from patients every day. Good. Many of the things I've learned about the world, I've learned from other people sitting in this room. And then what drains me as well is people. That's what I do all day. I talk to people all day. It's not as much caring, because if you set good boundaries and you learn early on as a therapist to make certain that you're helping people and not just caring it for them.
Right.
But inevitably, you gain relationships with people and it can get a little heavy. So the same thing as seeing people. I think because my family doesn't for the most part. It's just balancing seeing people and doing what you want to do to help people and making money at the same time. This isn't just business.
Right.
This is also a calling. And so to do the two can get a little draining at times, but the upside still outweighs the down.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit since we're running out of time. What is your favorite book?
Anything by Toni Morrison, but I would say Song of Solomon.
Okay. Okay.
I'm a big Toni Morrison fan.
Yeah. I read a lot of her books in college, actually.
Yeah, that's where I started in college.
So there's a concept in business called Pareto's Principle, the 80-20 rule.
Okay.
So like 20% of the actions you take equal 80% of the results. So like, what are the small amount of things you do that gets you 80% of the results?
I would have to say, I'd have to say taking care of people like you want to be taken care of, treating people like you'd want to be treated, and focusing on that, listening to people, and giving them what you think they need based upon what they tell you, and being patient. That is giving me my entire business. And I'll give you an example. When we first opened, we invested a number of dollars in marketing and putting ourselves in different magazines, local things. I would say we probably got less than 1% of our business from that. 99.9% of my business comes from word of mouth. So in this business, creating those relationships with people so that people trust you will get you the majority of your business. I don't advertise now. I don't do things like that because the majority of my business, like I say, comes from word of mouth.
Right. If you had a superpower or ability, what would you choose and why?
Wow. The ability to heal.
Like Wolverine.
Yeah. What?
Like Wolverine?
No, not me heal, but heal other people.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can heal other people, then I can heal myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
But just to heal other people, because my day would be pretty quick. I just tap them on the forehead and like, boom, you're done. You're good. You feel better? There's nothing better. In this field, we don't see that as much.
Yeah.
Rarely you don't see people get dramatically better after one session or because you put them on one medication. So I would love to, for a little bit, when people come and say, hey, doc, just give me that happy pill. Yeah. I would love to go, I got one better. Tap them on the forehead, boop, you're in a better place.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Other than that would be fly.
Okay.
Yeah. I think everybody wants to fly.
Everybody wants to fly.
Yeah, everybody likes Superman. Batman got a cool car, but everybody likes Superman. Yeah.
All right, last one, we'll get out of here. Advice for entrepreneurial kids and their parents.
Okay, I would say learn as much as you can about business and running it, managing, and financing it. I think everyone needs to have a baseline understanding of how money works, which is what I think is missing in I'll just say our community. In our community, we know how to work. Black folks know how to work. Black folks know how to save. We know how to do those two things. But having a good understanding of how money works and will work for you, I think is what's lacking in our community. I think that's the piece that's missing. I can't speak for other communities, but for our community, I know, because those are people I've been around my entire life.
Right.
And everyone I've been around, I've had business people in my family, knew how to work, knew how to make money, but they knew how to save it. They didn't know how to take it and make more money.
Right.
And if I would say anything, is that we need to teach our children, all of these terms that we hear flying around every day, like unemployment and inflation and just everything that goes along with money and the money world. Our kids need to know what these terms mean, so that they can not just work. So everybody's not going to open a business. This life isn't for everybody. Some people want to work for it, that's fine. But still, at the end of the day, the money you make, you need to know what to do with it. What we know how to do is save it and spend it. Well, we're good at that. We're good at those two things. But learning how to say, how do I make this grow? And also, how do we do it with each other? How do we not by just buying and selling to one another, but how do we take money that we have together and say, okay, let's put it together and do this. These are the things that we need to learn how to do.
Awesome.
So that's what I'm trying to teach my kids how to do. Is to get them. They may not want to go into business. They may want to work for someone. Right now, my son, I know, doesn't want to own his own business. My daughter may, because she's thinking about going to law school. Okay. She's really, that's where she's going. According to that's what I say. So she'll do whatever makes her happy. But she likes to read and write, so that's why
Gotcha.
She's good at it. But it's learning those things, because even if they don't go into business, they still need to know what to do with their money besides just.
That's right, saving and spend it.
Right, right, and we're really good at that. We're good at working. We know how to work. We know how to get out there and grind. But that was something that I couldn't, off the top of my head, teach my children.
Gotcha.
If I had to say, if it was one thing I would do over again, going back to say high school, is I would have got that education then instead of taking auto mechanics. It's great back then, but now you can't even work on your own car.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not a mechanic, which is what I wanted to be. But now if I'd learned how to make money. Yeah.
All right. Well, great interview. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
I really appreciate you. You're a great interviewer.
Well, I thank you. I said,
there's a job in here for you. You're good with people. Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
It means a lot. Yeah. Real quick, I drove for Uber in Chicago for like a year, so it's like I know the life stories of about 1,000 Chicagoans because they just spilled their guts to me for those few seconds. But
the cab driving, the bartender, right? There you go.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Dr. Adam Harris of the Eastern Wellness Center for being on the show. How can people find you?
We're in Richmond Hill, and if you just give us a call at 912-756-4117, and we'll tell you how to get here. And so we're kind of tucked away in a little corner, but we're in plain sight, but we're kind of out of sight at the same time. So if you have trouble getting here, just give us a holler and we'll get you here.
Awesome. Intentionally, too.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us again today. Thank you. I hope you go out there and do something this week that's impactful. Go do something to help somebody close to you. Go do something that's loving, that's going to give to the world. So I love you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in again, and we'll see you next time.